Yeah, so After Love, which is a terrific film, played at the London Film Festival last year and other festivals as well. This is the debut feature by Alim Khan. Um, it stars Joanna Scanlon, who is, I think this is a career best turn from her. She's Mary. She is a white English Muslim who converted many years ago in order to marry Ahmed. They live near the cliffs of Dover. His job is that he's on the ferry going backwards and forwards between Dover and Calais. And very early on in the film, like very early on in the film, Ahmed dies. And Mary then discovers that the husband that she thought she knew had a whole other life across the channel that she knew nothing about at all. And so she travels across the channel to see whether she can find out about this other life. But of course, what's happened is her own life has been thrown completely into disarray as a result of it, not least because it's made her question who she is, who she, the person that she is. One of the first things that happens is that she meets this kind of very cosmopolitan French woman who, because she's wearing a hijab and because her manner is kind of slightly, it almost seems subservient, mistakes her for a cleaning woman and then invites her into her home. So she herself has then become a different person. And what the film is then about is about people being a number of different people at the same time. Here is a clip.
I'm finished.
You have a light? Thank you. Did you convert when you married?
Yes.
How do you feel about wearing it?
How do I feel? I don't. I've worn it longer than I haven't.
It must have been hard to take all that on.
Back then, I did something for my husband that no one else could.
And the rest of the film then is about, who people are, who they say they are, how, on one level, it's about betrayal. It's about discovering that your partner had a whole other life that you knew nothing about. On another level, it's about kind of cross-cultural, conflict and reconciliation because, she's a white English Muslim and now she's in France and her husband came from Pakistan, lived in England, had another life in France. And Alim Khan, the director, has talked about how, with his own life, he's experienced the thing about living separate lives, presenting separate faces to different people. I thought this was a really terrific piece. And the best recommendation I can give you is that I've now seen it 3 times, and every time I see it, I see more in it. The first time you see it, it's a story about somebody discovering that their partner had another life and them questioning who they are. The more I watched it, the more you realize that everything about the film is about mirroring and duality and duplicity to some extent. But it's beautifully constructed. It's one of those examples of the form of the film tells the story as much as the words do. There are mirrored images and just all the way through the film, the way in which the music works, the way in which the music, which is quite often absent, sometimes sounds like voices, and the way in which an awful lot of it is to do with the voices in the central character's head. And there are occasionally these kind of hallucinogenic visions. As Mary is crossing the channel, she looks back to see the White Cliffs of Dover and she sees them collapsing. And you're not sure whether she's actually seeing it or whether she's imagining it. Later on, she's looking up at a ceiling and the crack appears in the ceiling because it's her world is fracturing. But it's one of those films where on the one hand there is a sort of a fairly straightforward story about cross-cultural and sexuality, identity, and all those kind of things, and on the other hand I said by the third time I'd watched it, I was starting to think this is really good because the more I watch it, the more I find things in it. And there have been many cases in which I've watched the film the second time round and thought, oh yeah, no, the first time round I was just a bit, I was taken in by it. But actually, second time round, it looks a lot more empty than it did. But by the third time of After Love, I was thinking, this is a very, very well made movie. And Joanna Scanlon is terrific, not least because an awful lot of what she does is nothing to do with what she says. It's to do with everything else. And I thought her performance was really remarkable. And anyway, it's called After Love. It's in cinemas, and it's well worth checking out. It's very, very affecting, very moving, but a very, very carefully constructed movie.